1971 was a game-changing year in music history, a period when creativity exploded across genres, legendary albums dropped left and right, and artists redefined the sound of a new generation. Many refer to 71 as the most pivotal and exciting year of the rock era, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's top 3 easy. So I'm going to do the impossible. I'm going to count down the top 10 songs from this incredible year. All 10 of these songs are amazing, including a revolutionary song that was written on a golf course by some drinking buddies. Another that was written for a kid's cartoon that never got off the ground, so the band made it one of the biggest rock songs ever. And another song that came from the songwriters misreading a road sign. And then there was yet another that was written as a joke, but fans took it very seriously and made this band rock gods because of it. Man, some great stories and interviews coming up on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember the tracking button on your VCR to get rid of the squiggly lines at the top or bottom of your picture, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now, and make sure to go to professorofrock.com to vote for Best Band and to sign up. Become a member there, and we're going to have live streams and full interviews and everything there. Check it out today. So today, I thought I'd aim for the impossible and try to count down the top 10 greatest songs of one of music's greatest years. 1971, it's definitely in my top 3. So after a few hours of listening to about 50 of these great songs from that year and albums, I was able to whittle down to about 25. And then I bled, and I bled, and I bled, and I bled. I mean, seriously, until I got it down to 10, and it was really hard. Now, my only rule for these top 10s by year is that the song had to peak in the top 40 in that year. That keeps it a little bit more fair. So let's get into it. We kick off the countdown with one of the most universally loved songs of the rock era. I've got Joy to the World by Three Dog Night at number 10. It's actually the biggest song of that year, according to charts. Folk singer-songwriter Hoyt Axton originally wrote Joy to the World for an animated TV special that never got off the ground. It was called The Happy Song. It was a kid's show. While opening for Three Dog Night on tour, Hoyt realized the band was always on the lookout for unique material that they could interpret as their own. And he thought Joy to the World could be a great choice. Like I said, it was a kid's song. Everybody in the band hated it, except for Chuck Negron. I actually had a really cool discussion about this massive smash with Chuck Negron, who sang the iconic lead vocal, and also Danny Hutton. Here's what they said.
It was a failed song. He was trying to do a morning cartoon thing with about 11 songs on it, and it didn't work, the show. So he was parting out all the different songs. So then he brought it, and if you don't know Hoyt, but Hoyt's got this big baritone voice with a slamming guitar. Jeremiah was a over, and I'm kind of looking, oh God, what the hell is going on here?
He played it again, and I went, what? Jeremiah was a prophet. What is that? And he went, oh no, well, that originally was. So I'm going to make it now a gospel song, which he did. He had a version of it, and I said, well, what was the version you've been playing for the guys? And he played Jeremiah was a bullfrog. If I hadn't heard the playback of me singing Jeremiah was a bullfrog, who knows what would have happened? I might have passed with the rest of the guys. I knew that was a hit. I knew that line was going to be in everyone's head. It was just too bizarre, and it was coming, hitting you right in the face.
So in Billboard Magazine's year-end survey, like I said, Joy to the World by Three Dog Night was the biggest single in 1971, owning the #1 spot for 6 consecutive weeks, and achieved the same success in Canada and South Africa. All right, coming in at number 9 on our countdown of the top 10 songs of 71, I got Rod Stewart's Coming of Age, Maggie May. So in his memoir, Rod, the autobiography, which you got to read, I'll link to it below, Rod Stewart shared the story behind the inspiration for the song, and we covered this about a year ago in detail. He wrote, and I quote, "At 16, I went to the Bailou Jazz Festival in New Forest. I'd snuck in with some mates through an overflow sewage pipe. On a secluded path of grass, I met an older woman who came on to me quite strongly in the beer tent. Rod admitted it was his first time, though the encounter was, as he put it, very brief.
September and I really should be back at school.
Maggie May took shape when Rod Stewart teamed up with guitarist Martin Quintenton of Steamhammer. I guess the two met up at Stewart's house in Muswell Hill, where Quintenton strummed some chords that immediately sparked Rod's interest. And as Stewart played around with a vocal melody, he found himself singing lyrics from the folk tune Maggie May.
Oh, Maggie, Maggie May, they've taken that away.
This brought back the memories of his youthful fling on that grassy knoll a decade earlier when he was pretty quick. And they put together a rough demo with Stewart improvising fragmented lines. From there, Rod dove into the crafting of the lyrics, and he just filled a notebook with ideas. The song evolved into the tale of a young man swept up in a whirlwind romance with an older woman, leaving him both captivated and confused. Maggie May holds the distinction of being the first rock-era hit to prominently feature a mandolin, an instrument traditionally associated with folk music, of course. Stewart had first experimented with the mandolin on Mandolin Wind, one of the earliest tracks he recorded for the album. Rod loved the way it sounded, so he decided to incorporate a mandolin on Maggie May to great effect. Maggie May was Rod the Mod, his breakout solo hit, and it was huge. Even though it was technically the B-side to the single Reason to Believe, it gradually made its way to #1 in Canada, the UK, Austria, and the Billboard Hot 100 when a DJ turned it around, set the tone for Rod's incredible run throughout the 70s. Moving on to #8 in our countdown to 71, I got Take Me Home Country Roads by Henry John Deutschendorf, better known as the lovable John Denver, one of the greatest, purest voices ever.
Take me home.
Take Me Home Country Roads was written by the husband and wife duo of Taffy Nivert and Bill Danoff. Remember, Bill also wrote Afternoon Delight. That was a #1 single when he and Taffy were in the Starland Vocal Band. Covered that one about a year back.
Looking forward to a little afternoon delight, rubbing sticks and stones together.
So the inspiration for this modern American classic struck Bill Danoff while he and Taffy were driving along Clopper Road in Montgomery County, Maryland. They were on their way to a family gathering in Gaithersburg. With Taffy at the wheel and, Bill was strumming his guitar, he had it in the car with him, memories of the winding country roads from his childhood in western New England began to flow through his mind.
Younger than the mountains, growing like a breeze.
The funny thing is, they actually misread the road sign that inspired the song. It said Westernport, Maryland, but they misread it as West Virginia. So they wrote a song about the road sign. It fit really well, of course, in the song. Their error would become an all-time standard that people sing every day.
Almost heaven, West Virginia.
After performing a show in Washington, D.C., John Denver actually joined Bill and Taffy at their home to work on a rough draft of a song that they'd been crafting, which was this. It was almost a collaboration that never happened, though. John Denver had been in a car accident on his way to their place to do this writing session. He injured his thumb and he made a detour to the hospital. But despite the setback, he made it over. He was ready to dive into the music, anything for the song. That night, the trio had some drinks together, refining lyrics and melodies until the song started to really take shape.
To the place I belong.
Inspired by their progress, they decided to share it with an audience. Actually, the very next evening, they debuted the song live, performing it together on stage. John Denver immediately recognized its hit potential. Determined to bring the song to life, he invited Bill and Taffy to New York, where they recorded it together for John's 4th studio LP. Now, if you listen closely to the track, you can actually hear Bill and Taffy's voices blending seamlessly into the background harmonies, really cementing their part in creating a timeless classic.
West Virginia.
Funny thing is, though, that neither Bill, Taffy, or John had ever been to West Virginia before they collaborated on Take Me Home, and now it's a state song. But they still projected the magical imagery of the mountain state that captured the imagination and the hearts of America in a song that has resonated with generation after generation since its release in 1971.
Mountains, Shenandoah River.
As predicted, Take Me Home Country Roads was a big hit for John Denver. Went all the way to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it went to number 3 in Canada.
Country roads.
Okay, at the number 7 spot, I have So Far Away by Carole King. Man, Carole King's Tapestry was everywhere in 71. It's funny because Carole King absolutely hated the sound of her home voice. The critics didn't help that. Some said that her voice wasn't good enough to make it as a solo artist. She actually ended up having 118 hits, if you count all the songs she's written, sung, or co-written. And Tapestry was her biggest album. Actually, it was the biggest solo album of the era. I mean, it spent 15 weeks at the number 1 spot, ushering in the singer-songwriter movement in the process, and it did this on the strength of so many great songs, huge songs like I Feel the Earth Move and It's Too Late, and my pick at number 7, So Far Away.
I feel the earth move under my feet, and it's too late, baby, now it's too late to shout.
This perfect ballad, Carole King laments the tragedy that she and the man she loves, they can't be together, and she mentions that in this time of change, people in general were becoming more disconnected from another. And this song is perfect for that. It actually hit number 14 on the charts. And there was speaking of Rod Stewart, he did a killer cover of this song that was big in the 90s.
That you're so far away.
All right, coming in at number 6 on our countdown of the top songs of 1971. It's The Last Will and Testament, the last song that Jim Morrison recorded before shocking death in Paris on July 3rd of 71. The epic, ethereal, and truly haunting Riders on the Storm by Morrison and the Doors.
Riders on the storm.
Apparently, Paul Rothchild, the producer of the LA Woman album, belittled Riders on the Storm. He described it as cocktail music. Now, I had the honor of discussing this track in detail with the Doors co-founder and guitarist Robbie Krieger. Here's what he told me.
We were just goofing around one day, and we were playing Ghost Riders on the Sky. And so I had that guitar sound with the tremolo effect on it. And
Dan Jones.
Yeah, and so we were just kind of messing around with that, and so Jim started singing "Ghost Riders in the Sky," and somehow it changed to "Riders on the Storm." And from there, he came up with this whole story about this killer on the road.
Riders on the storm.
Just a whole different direction than the original, than the Ventures would have done.
Riders on the Storm was the last hurrah for the Doors. Even though the band carried on as a trio when Jim Morrison died, Doors essentially died with him. The single went to number 5 in Canada, it went to number 7 in the Netherlands, and peaked at number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 here in the States. Onward and upward with our countdown of the top 10 songs of 71. It's the biggest selling song of John Lennon's solo career. At number 5, I've got the immortal Imagine.
Imagine all the people.
John wrote and recorded this song at Tittenhurst Park, his estate in the serene English countryside. This is where he and Yoko Ono settled in the summer of 1969. By the time they moved in, the Beatles hadn't officially split, but the cracks were undeniable, and the Fab Four would never record together again after that. In fact, the final Beatles photo shoot took place there in August of that year. In early 1971, John Lennon began crafting songs for what would become his next album, including the iconic Imagine.
For today.
By May, he had gathered a group of trusted collaborators at his estate to bring the album to life. Among those answering the call were producer Phil Spector. There was George Harrison, guitar George, bassist Klaus Vorman, pianist Nicky Hopkins, and drummers Alan White and Jim Keltner. Now, the vibe during the recording sessions was warm and collaborative. Footage from the sessions reveals a blend of camaraderie and professionalism. Laughter and conversation just filled the room. But when it was time to record, Phil Spector ensured the work stayed focused.
Imagine there's no countries.
John originally took sole credit for this song, but then he later admitted that Yoko deserved recognition for her significant contributions. In a poignant twist of fate, just 2 days before his tragic death, John Lennon spoke about this during a BBC radio interview with Andy Peebles on December 6, 1980. Reflecting on his earlier mindset, he confessed that Imagine should have been credited as a Lennon-Ono song because a lot of the lyric and the concept came directly from Yoko. But in those days, John recognized he was a bit more selfish, a bit more macho, his words. But he cleared his conscience when he admitted that the theme of the song was right out of Yoko's book, Grapefruit. It was an acknowledgement that underscored both the song's kindred spirit and the profound influence of Yoko's artistry on Lennon's work at the time.
You may say I'm a dreamer.
There's a lot of opinions about Imagine, but it's arguably John Lennon's opus as a solo artist. Some say the best from one of the most influential artists of the rock era. I mean, the piano is as haunting as anything ever laid down to a track. For its lasting impact, one would think that Imagine spent weeks at number 1, but it ended up losing steam at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, it did top the singles chart in many countries, including Ireland, Australia, South Africa, and Canada.
And the world will live as one.
All right, we're up to number 4 on the countdown of the top 10 songs of 71. And I've got the late Gordon Lightfoot and his gorgeous introspection, the truly haunting, If You Could Read My Mind.
If you could read my mind, love.
Now, the liner notes of his box set songbook, Gordon Lightfoot candidly describes If You Could Read My Mind as a song about the failure of marriage. Gordon has openly admitted that his infidelity led to the collapse of his first marriage, shedding light on the deeply personal nature of this song. The lyrics paint a vivid picture, comparing his story to a paperback novel or an old-time movie, brimming with drama and heartbreak.
Just like an old-time movie.
While the song conveys his torment over the breakdown, it's also laced with a sense of empathy and remorse for his first wife, Britta, a reflection of the emotional complexity behind those words. They just don't make songs like this anymore. I mean, it cuts to the bone.
As long as I'm a ghost, you can't see.
Now, Gordon had 2 children with his first wife, Ingrid and Fred. And years later, Ingrid persuaded Gordon to make a subtle but meaningful change to the lyrics of the song during performances. He actually altered the line, "You'll know that I'm just trying to understand the feeling that you lack," to "the feeling that we lack." That was a gesture that reflected his acceptance of shared responsibility for the relationship's struggles. It's really cool that he would do that. Again, this song, it is so haunting, it just hurts to listen to it.
If you could read my mind, love.
So back to the countdown of the top 10 songs of 71, it's an important declaration of protest, benevolence, and compassion delivered by one of the greatest vocalists in recorded musical history. What's Going On by the incomparable Marvin Gaye at number 3.
So you can see what's going on, what's going on.
What's Going On was born on the golf course of all places. The song was actually conceived by 3 friends who used to drink and golf together. They happen to be Motown legends, songwriter Al Cleveland, Four Tops member Ronaldo Obi Benson, and singer Marvin Gaye. While they were swinging the clubs on the range, Marvin contributed impassioned lyrics and fine-tuned the arrangement, initially envisioning the song for the originals. However, Benson and Cleveland persuaded Marvin himself to take the lead.
What's going on? Yeah, what's going on?
That's a decision that would forever cement the track as one of his most iconic works.
Brother, 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 there's far too many.
Now, before What's Going On, Marvin Gaye was not widely known for his lyricism, rarely delving into the songwriting process at all. But for the album of the same name, he stepped up in a huge way, taking control of the production to make a powerful artistic statement. Motown's management, including label chief Berry Gordy, they were very skeptical of this new direction. However, Marvin Gaye's status as an established star gave him the leverage to see it through, and he was able to do it. He really pushed boundaries with this one, even incorporating an orchestra into the track, creating a groundbreaking sound that reshaped not only his career, but the label Motown itself.
Brutality, talk to me.
Now, What's Going On was one of Motown's first songs to really deliver a powerful political message in such a way. Now, around the same time, artists like Stevie Wonder and The Temptations were also venturing into more serious and thought-provoking material. A very stark contrast to Motown's feel-good hits of the 60s.
Oh, but who are they to judge us?
Marvin Gaye's foray into social commentary was really unexpected, making the song's impact even more profound. What's Going On made the statement that Marvin Gaye aspired to deliver, artistically and culturally. It connected deeply with fans throughout America, rising to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it went all the way to number 1 on the Billboard R&B Soul chart.
Tell you what's going on.
All right, our journey through the top 10 songs of 71 now takes us to the land of the ice and snow. Then to the midnight sun, where the hot springs flow, where we find 2 minutes and 21 seconds of hellish rock euphoria. Of course, got Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song at number 2. Starting with the intentional hiss from an echo unit and the faint count-off before the song even starts. It's amazing how much intensity is packed into this track. If there were a way to measure pure energy in music, this would undoubtedly rank as the most powerful rock song per second. Again, very short song, barely 2 minutes. Led Zeppelin intended Immigrant Song to have a touch of humor, comparing their road adventures to Viking warriors battling hordes to conquer new lands. They wrote it as a joke, tongue-in-cheek, from the most powerful band out there, imagining themselves as the lords of rock, and, in the process, they became that very thing. Since the band wasn't exactly known for their humor, a lot of fans took this song much more seriously than they intended. I, for one, prefer to take this song as serious as possible. When I think of a song that exemplifies the explosive value of pure rock and roll, it is Immigrant Song, right? The song was inspired by the band's first trip to Iceland. Like I said, the land of ice and snow. As the opening track on Led Zeppelin 3, it was designed to stand out as something truly unique. And man, was it ever. One lyric from the song became legendary in Zeppelin lore. Hammer of the gods will drive our ships to new lands. Fans embraced the phrase, often describing Zeppelin's powerful sound as Hammer of the gods. That line even inspired the title of Stephen Davis's iconic book about the band. Robert Plant's fascination with history influenced the lyrics for sure, and he drew inspiration from explorers like Marco Polo. He imagined the emotions that they must have experienced during their journeys, wondering if, like him, they felt the pressure to surpass their previous achievements and discover even greater lands, conquer greater lands. Jimmy Page crafted the iconic riff for Immigrant Song by playing octaves on F sharp. As soon as he introduced it during rehearsals, the band's excitement confirmed, what Jimmy Page already knew. The riff was powerful enough to drive this entire song. Now, Robert Plant's vocal, it's truly one of his best. John Bonham's drumming, It inflects a relentless driving rhythm featuring rapid kick snare patterns, crisp hi-hats, and just thunderous fills. Then there's the quiet member of Zeppelin, John Paul Jones, who adds depth to the song with ascending runs in the chorus while locking in with Jimmy Page during the verses. Oh man. Many consider JPJ's bass work to be the most dynamic element of the track. The remarkable legacy of Immigrant Song, it just can't be measured in a single survey. But it did chart in 71. Zeppelin didn't have many hit singles, but it climbed to number 4 in Canada, Switzerland, South Africa, New Zealand, and it peaked at number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100 here. The highest ranking for Immigrant Song was a number 3 finish in Denmark.
So now you better stop, rebuild all your ruins.
You could argue that it might be the greatest double-sided single as well, because the B-side was Hey Hey What Can I Do, which the band never released. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Probably the greatest unreleased song ever. Immigrant Song on side A, Hey Hey What Can I Do on side B. Perfection. It's also the most viewed song story on this channel. Of course it is. It's Zeppelin.
She won't be true. I said she won't be true, no.
Man, here we are at the number 1. We're at the pinnacle of our countdown of the top 10 songs of 71. And I tell you, Immigrant Song came close. Any other day, it might have been number 1. But the choice for the number 1 song of the pivotal year in music called 1971 is Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who.
We don't get fooled again.
Pete Townsend captured the cycle of revolution in a song that's equal parts rallying cry and cautionary tale. It was part of his much talked about Lifehouse project that he envisioned as a sci-fi movie where people are enslaved by the government, but ultimately liberated by a massive rock concert. Man, Won't Get Fooled Again. It begins with an uprising, a fiery push for change.
Constitution, take a bow for the new revolution.
And by the middle of the song, the old regime is toppled and hope surges as the people take power.
We were liberated from the poet's song.
But then by the end, the story twists. Those who take control become no different from their predecessors, summed up perfectly in the biting line, one of the greatest lines from a song ever. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Really a line that describes most elections in this country, or any country for that matter.
Boss, same as the old boss.
For Pete Townsend, revolution wasn't the solution. It was a doom cycle. In Townsend, a career biography, he explained the song's anti-establishment roots, but also his belief that revolution ultimately changes nothing. He said in the long run, people are going to get hurt. It was a sobering message wrapped in electrifying rock.
We don't get fooled again.
Won't Get Fooled Again, so groundbreaking, especially for incorporating a synthesizer into the rhythm track, a rarity at the time. During live performances, the band had to rely on a taped recording of the synthesizer part to recreate the song's signature sound. The synthesizer symbolizes the revolution itself. It swells at the beginning to mark the uprising, and then it resurges at the end of the song, hinting at the start of maybe another revolution on the horizon. The Who's Won't Get Fooled Again. Our pick is the number 1 song of our countdown of the top 10 songs of 71. It's rock preeminence. Like Immigrant Song, it's classic rock royalty. Not a pop standard, better. It scored well on the singles chart around the world. It went to number 14 in Australia, number 9 in the UK, number 8 in the Netherlands, and number 7 in Canada. In the US, Won't Get Fooled Again rose to number 15 on the Billboard Hot 100. And you know, it may not even be the finest song on the album Who's Next. I mean, you could argue that Bob O'Reilly is a tick better. The only thing is it didn't hit the top 40 because it was never released as a single.
Teenage wasteland.
Well, there it is. The countdown, my countdown of the top 10 songs of 1971. Another year full of outstanding music that made the choices pretty much impossible. Amidst hundreds of worthy tracks, I got to at least throw out some honorable mentions. I got 3. Just My Imagination by The Temptations, Ain't No Sunshine by Bill Withers, and Baby I'ma Want You by Brett.
But it was just my imagination. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Baby, I'ma want you. Baby, I'ma need you.
You know, on any other day, these 3 songs would definitely be in the top 10. So hard making these choices. Seriously. So let's give out the awards for the best band, artist, and album. I'm giving Led Zeppelin 4 Album of the Year, just by a hair over who's next. I'm giving Led Zeppelin Band of the Year, and I'm giving Marvin Gaye Artist of the Year. So what's your top 10 of 71? What are your picks of the greatest songs, albums, artists, bands, solo artists? Let me know below. How did I do? What do you think? What are your memories of these songs? Man, 1971, where would you rank it? I think 1984, 1971, and 1966 for me are the top 3 years in music. 1985 and 1987, it's hard to leave those 2 out. Oh, it's very difficult, but let's have a great discussion. Let's talk about some of your tops. And if you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Make sure to go to professorofrock.com and sign up there so we can build that community as well. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.